Hey, what's up everyone? JCG Studios here, and this is part one of a three-part series into designing your own spaceship, which you can fly about in Unity. This is a three-part series. Part one is designing it in Blender, which is free. Part two is creating the UV maps and painting it in GIMP, which is also free. And part three is creating the scripts to fly it in Unity, which is free. So this tutorial is, well, I'm going to assume you know the basics about Blender, but probably not too much. Here I am in the opening scene with the default lamp and the default camera. Just want to go ahead and delete both of those using selecting them with the right mouse button and hitting the delete key. That's basically it for that. You're left with this cube right here. Now it's completely up to you what you want your ship to look like. I'm just going to do something basic right here just to show you what I do. But the best way to think of a design, unless you've actually drawn it and prepared it, is just to see what happens, play around with Blender for a bit, and come up with something you like. I'm going to start by mirroring the left-hand side of this cube. The mirror tool just reflects what you got on one side onto the other. And what I'm doing here is I'm entering the edit mode by hitting tab on my keyboard. Gonna hit Control R to add a loop cut and put it right in the middle. There we go. And I just hit right click twice and it slaps it right in the middle like that. Want to go ahead and delete these four corners here on the other side of the green y-axis line. Hit delete and click vertices. Gotta go to my modifier tool over here and hit mirror. I want X selected. I also want to select clipping. Now if I hit tab again, everything I do on this side is reflected on the other side, and I can't move this one because this is clipped. This is attached in the middle to whatever's on the other side. So for example, what the clipping does, if I were to add a loop cut here, for example, and then extend that, and then get this face here, so you see everything in the middle is now attached. You can't move it, and this counts as it just stops any overlapping really, and makes it look kind of a lot nicer and a lot neater. So I'm just going to undo all that. So I'm basically going to start with a cube. This cube basically, I think it's going to be the main whole section. I don't know, I haven't actually decided yet. But I'm just going to play around with it and see what I can come up with. And talk you guys through the different steps I take to come up with a design. So you have your vertices here, which selects the edge, like a corner. Have your edge selection, and you have your face selection right here. And I'm right clicking to select what I want to, and I want to extrude this face here by hitting E, and using my mouse to drag where I want it. I'm going to scale this by hitting S, and I want to do it in the Z upwards direction, so I'm going to hit S and then Z. And again, use my mouse just to adjust it to how I like. Going to move this back a bit. Just give it some nice effects, beveling effects down here. Sorry, I haven't really prepared what I was going to say. I'm just sort of doing this off the top of my head, really. So I hit E again. Going to hit Control R to add a loop cut. Use my mouse wheel to increase this to 2 loop cuts. I'm on face select now. Gonna hold down Alt and right click on the corner edge there. The Alt button basically selects like an entire loop. Around, for example, if I click this edge, it will select this whole face down here. But if I hit this edge, it just selects this. S, X to extend that outwards a bit, and then Z and Y. And do the same here. Extrude that. There we go. I'm going to sweep this back a bit by selecting the vertices. And then create another sort of engine pylon here. As mentioned, you can basically just do whatever you want. This is just a quick sort of beginner's guide if you can't think of what to do, or if you're just looking for new techniques, really. That's basically what this tutorial provides. I can't really think of anything else to say about that. I'm just going to select this face here, rescale it using S and Y. So that's our wing, like a basic wing formation created. Obviously if you've got a spaceship you don't really need wings, but it's always nice to have them there for aesthetic reasons. So now I've selected these two faces here on the front. Hit E, extrude them out a bit, and then S to resize. Scaling this in a little bit. I'm going to select this edge here and move this down like that. And same with this one here. Everything I do on this side obviously is recreated on this side, so it's all even throughout. I'm going to do the same on the rear now. Okay. I'm selecting multiple edges or items with while holding down the shift button. The control button does the same thing, but it selects from one item to another item. So if I take this edge here, hit control and hit edge, hit this edge here, it selects all the items from this edge to this edge. Whereas if I just hold down shift, I have more control and I just select whatever I like, really. And move this out like that. There we go. This ship isn't really looking that good at the moment. I didn't really think of anything I wanted before I started designing it, to be honest. Making this up as I go along. Forgive me. Just going to smooth it out a little bit, make it look a little more, I don't want to say smooth, but that's basically what it is, a little smoother throughout. So what you got here is the basic shape of what I want to create. Took about 2 minutes. This basically takes no time at all, especially if you're just playing around with it and trying to come up with something you like, but I wouldn't rush it if I were you, especially if you're just starting out. Make sure it's exactly how you like it before you start exporting it and doing more stuff to it, because going back to it later on and correcting stuff you don't like, it's harder, so it's better to do it now. One little trick, for example, if I hit E without realising, or I forget that I've hit E to extrude, and I right click, it seems to me that there's only one face here, but in reality there's two, and later on that can mess up your model entirely, and likelihood is that without realising you'll create quite a few of these double vertices where you've inadvertently got two laying on top of each other, and basically that could create knots in the model, make it uneven. A quick trick to undoing all that is I'm hitting A or double A to select everything, and I'm going to hit Control E. Sorry, not Control E. I'm just going to go over here and hit remove doubles, and see at the top it says remove 6 vertices, and it's removed all the vertices that are in the exact same position. And well, to me anyway, this is really useful because I make these mistakes a lot, and it's horrible to find them out later on when you can't really correct them that easily. It's really annoying. Don't know what I did that for though. I'm just gonna smooth that out and extrude the front a bit to make a nice little, like a nose cone or a cockpit. That looks quite nice. Might end up using this in my game, I don't know. The wing, I'm not too happy with the wing, to be honest. Sort of, you can tell I wasn't really thinking when I was creating that. And I'm just going to create like a little tail here. Again, because it's set in space, you don't really need it. No need for a tail unless you're designing an airplane. But, you know, it's a nice touch. Looks alright. Wouldn't say that's too bad. Just going to go ahead and save this. I'm just going to save tutorial ship. I don't really organise my folder that well, which is a bad practice, but let's come up here at the front of the spacecraft and create a little some windows for the pilots to look out of, sort of a cockpit modelling section here. Now we've got the basic shape, we can start focusing on little details of the ship. So I'm going to hit Control R to create a loop cut, and I'm going to use my left mouse button to place it here, and basically what that does, it creates sort of another cut down there, and because I want to simulate a central cutting in the cockpit window. Completely optional, of course. I'm going to hit extrude on the windshield, and I'm going to hit S to scale the polygon, and then I'm going to move this forward a bit. I'm going to hit S again, E and then S again, and do the same thing. And then I'm going to hit E, hit S, scale that down quite a bit this time. Looking quite nice. And little trick is to hit Control B to bevel it, and that basically splits each edge you've selected into 2 edges, and sort of creates a face between them to smooth it really. There we go. That's not quite nice. The key with Blender is just to play around with it until you get something you like. That comes with experience, really. And obviously what we did when we extruded and scaled this and moved it outwards is to create a little border around the window. It's quite a nice touch for later on. Just going to do the same around here real quick. Just going to move this up. I'm also going to rotate it actually by hitting R, and then the axis I want to rotate in, which is Y in this case. Right, I'm just going to want to do the same as I did in the windshield, so I'm going to hit E, S, move it out a bit, E, S, move it in a bit. Very nice, and you'll see later on when we start smoothing all this out that we need to delete some of these lines across here. But we'll cross that bridge when it arises. That's quite nice. Do some of that. Okay. Another detail I'm going to add to mine, again completely optional, is the engine cowling. Could you call it that? Basically a spot or a hole in the engine to put the actual jet later on. So I'm going to do the same as in the windshield. E and an S, going to move this out a bit to give it a beveled look. ES, there we go. Not too shabby. Same over here. And the same on the rear end. The rear end, I'm just going to make it look a bit nicer by... Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. By extruding these and then extruding them outwards. So if I extrude them, and I hit S to make them bigger, you see that it makes them both bigger using the midpoint as the origin, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I can't really explain this very well. I'm not great at my words. That's obviously not what you want. You want to extrude them both out individually, if that makes sense. And there is a way to do that. If I down here, this is the pivot point, basically where this is centered. And I'm going to change that to individual origins. And now it extrudes each one depending on their origin point. So now if I extrude them, hit S, you can see that it neatly extrudes them both around their origin point. They're still nicely in line with each other. Because they're at an angle, I'm going to hit S first. Doesn't look very nice at the moment, and then I'm just going to move them this way. I'm going to scale down a bit on the Z axis, and I'm going to do the same again. Then I will I'll just bevel the edges like this, same as I've done on the others. Perfect. And this is completely optional, but feel free to add any other details you'd like to your ship. For example, for mine, I quite like to get each panel or each sort of section, such as this top bit here, and sort of extrude this, scale it in a bit, and smooth it up or down, and that basically gives the effect of a like a body panel, or if you look on many sort of sci-fi ships, you get like a hull plating effect. This basically accentuates that a bit, makes it look a bit more prominent. But that didn't go very well actually, because created some crap around there. So I could just do this, don't like that. Do the same here. Again, completely optional, completely up to you. One little trick is to this line here is under here. Don't really like that, so I'm going to move it down here. But if I use the gimbal, it doesn't do it in line with this face, this line, and this face here. So I'm going to hit G twice on my keyboard, and that lets you just slide it up and down the face. That can come in really handy sometimes. No. There we go. That didn't work out very well. I'll do this one first. Here we go. Just on the cockpit here. move this out a touch. Actually, I feel like this bit here I wasn't really a fan of this, so I think I'm gonna redo it. So I'm using Alt and Shift to select all these faces here. Just hit delete on my keyboard, and uh-oh, looks like we got ourselves a little gaping hole in our project. No worries. We're gonna hit the vertice select here. Just make sure I haven't got any. There we go. This one while holding down Shift. I'm gonna hit F to fill the square I've created. You can do this with triangles as well. It's up to you. And I'm gonna just it doesn't like that. Just thinking I could try and yeah, that'll work. Extrude this a little bit too. Yeah, that looks alright. And then I'm gonna. There we go. This just adds a bit of texture and a bit of a few details to the ship, because a lot of vehicles and machines don't just have smooth faces like this, and we'll explore that further on later, both in this episode and later episodes. However, there is one little thing which is coming up now, which I want to show you, which will help in smoothing. Yeah, so you've got the ship at the moment, so at this point you've just modelled the ship and you're happy with it, but you're not. A few things aren't too great. For example, all these rough edges around here. This isn't very smooth. You can see all the polygons individually. It looks kind of like a 90s game. Just looks a bit tacky. And we want to smooth out the edges a bit. One way to do that is go to our subdivision surface modifier. I'm going to ramp this up to 2. And you see that smoothed it out basically, but now everything's too round and sort of overlaps everything else a bit. It's kind of like a UFO more than just a regular old spaceship. So I'm going to hit this I button here to temporarily remove the modifier. And there are two things we can do to keep the roughness, the hardness of the edges, whilst making the rest of it smooth. I'm going to show you one way, and then I'm going to undo that and show you the way that I prefer. So the first way is to select a face, for example, bring up this menu by hitting the plus button over here, and there's a sort of a bar here that says mean crease. And a crease basically does exactly what it says on the tin. It sort of adds a crease. Say if you've got a smooth sphere and you add a crease to that, it'll just sort of create like an edge, like you're pinching the edge of the sphere. And now you see it's sort of, you can't see very well here, but it sort of sharpens the edge a bit. And hit Alt this edge here as well. Increase that seam. I'm going to hold down the Control button. Just like that one. Same again here. Same again here. Same again here. And now, you can see it sort of sharpened up the window a bit. But the problem you notice now is stuff like this overlapping mesh here it's just not very nice, and if you come over here it's sort of poking out a bit and it just doesn't look too good, and it's very hard, very complicated. It takes a lot of your time to fix. So I'm just going to undo all of these creases, so we're back at the start again. And slightly cheekier way that or a sort of easier way that I like to fix all this is to, if I see the view button here, I'm going to put that down to 1. I'm going to hit simple over here, and now I've hit simple, it goes back to how it was. And the difference between this is the simple basically splits every panel, every polygon on your model into 2, and and we'll see how that comes into handy later on. Just going to hit apply to that, and that's applied it directly to the project here. I'm actually going to do that one more time. There we go. Oops, sorry. Model looks no different. It looks slightly different. You can see that it's the faces have been split up here a bit. But no worries. Now we've got subdivision surface again. Now we don't want to change anything. Ramp it up to 2. And now you see, because we've got more edges, knocking it out everywhere, it's sort of kept its shape because there's more detail. It's quite hard to explain, but you sort of 2 lines closer together will keep their sharpness when you subdivide it. And now, because obviously I've previously applied 2 subdivisions to it, now it's just sort of kept its shape a little bit better. I don't want to apply this, and there's something else that is handy. So if we zoom into to the windshield, for example, here earlier we beveled it to just add a bit more detail, and as you can see now we've done that and subdivided it, there are lines that are very close together, and to save processing power we just don't really need these. They don't really make a difference. So I'm just going to hit Alt and Shift. Going to select this edge, this one, this, and that, yeah, that, and that, and these 3 as well. And I'm going to hit Delete, and I go down to Dissolve Edges. Now basically just does what it says. It dissolves them into the face behind it, if that makes sense. And as you can see, it's made absolutely no difference to the shape, but at the same time we've just deleted a load of the lines that we don't really need. Therefore there's sort of technically less detail on the model now, which saves processing power. Just in case you've got a low-end PC and don't really need detail where it doesn't make a difference, you don't really need it. Just going to do the same up here. Just to all the lines in between the bevels. Made a bit of difference actually. I think I'll just delete these. I'll keep some of them. Yeah, there we go. That's fine. And again, another problem area is the engines. These are meant to be sort of smooth anyway, so don't need these. Oh, sorry. There we go. Just do the same around the back. I'm going to keep some of the sharpness in there. See, it's made absolutely no difference, and yet we've just saved ourselves a lot of memory by deleting some lines we don't need. I'll just do the same to some of these real quick. I'll try not to bore you by doing this all day, I promise. It's all on personal preference really, just do what feels right to you, and whatever sort of art style you go for, you can just play around with Blender to achieve what feels best for you really. Some of these are a bit stupid. Okay. Turn on the back, I've got a bit. There we go. One more thing we need to consider before moving on to texturing and UV mapping is applying a smooth shader to the model. What we've got at the moment is the model is relatively smooth and high detailed, especially in edit mode. You can see that we've got quite a lot of polygons going on. However, when we zoom in, we can see sort of individual subdivision polygons, especially around the corners. Look there, and it doesn't look very good. One quick way to fix that is to hit the smooth shading over here, and as you can see, that does exactly what it says on the tin. It just smooths it out, makes it look a lot nicer. Now we have a relatively high detailed, probably not amazingly high, but a decent enough ship, which we can now create a material for, and that will be what the focus is in the next tutorial. I'll be splitting each part up into seams and creating a texture in GIMP. Until then, thank you all for tuning in. Please check out my game Starshot, my channel, and I hope to see you guys again soon.